welcome Lida here today. Um, Lida is an incredible artist. She has been working for almost 30 years actively and exhibiting in over 25 countries. So she really is a true global citizen. She's a scholar and has engaged her art in dialogue with the fields of social science, neuroscience, well-being, civil society, and education. And her works have been published in scholarly journals. They're in permanent collections around the world, including in the Flower Art Museum in the Netherlands, where she's currently the artist in residence. And I count Lida as a friend, and I'm not sure if she knows this, but I met her at a conference and she gave me this little postcard, and I keep it on my desk of a print of her work because it is just so beautiful. And I'm really excited for the program today. So, without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Esther, and I want to thank everybody here. Later in the conversation, there will be time to hear from you, and please put any questions or comments in the chat as we go. So, over to Esther and Lida. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Phoebe. And yeah, I'm really excited to be in conversation with Lida. And so today's presentation, it's also by her. And the title is Blooming at a Rhythm. We're gonna talk about Florescencism, and it's a movement very special because it is the core essentially of Lida's art. And yeah, I just want to start the conversation with a very important question. Maybe Lida can also give us like an introduction of her presentation as well.
Thank you so much, Esther. Thank you, Phoebe, Theo, and all of you for being here. I'm very much humbled and joyed to have this occasion to connect to young people and people with sincere hearts who want to make a difference in themselves, in their lives, and in the life of the bigger community in our world. Maybe we can go to the first slide, so I will tell you how it all started. That is my first drawing as a 3-year-old, and it might look like a happy drawing, but actually this message came to me when my hometown got bombarded in Iran. This is the town of Khorramshahr during Iran-Iraq war. I was 3 years old and I thought that the war was my fault. I thought I have probably done something bad and we've been punished for it. So one day I was crying and I was looking at the skies and I was asking the skies, God, please tell me, what have I done wrong? I promise I am not going to do it again. And I was waiting for an answer. And while waiting, suddenly this image came to me. The sun started to play the flute and the sounds formed angels and they were dancing and throwing flowers. So I thought that was the answer to my question. I took my crayons and I drew it and I had showed it to my mother at the time and I said, I think people misunderstood God. He doesn't want them to bomb our houses. He wants them to listen to the sun singing and dance and take the flowers. So that was a little crack space which opened to me, which showed me there is more to life and to us humans than all these horrible bombardments and killings and fear and terror going on. And that question remained with me in terms of how come people are not listening to the song? Well, as an adult, it's not maybe listening to the song is how come they don't take the nicer choices available, the warmer space which is available to us. And if we go to the next slide. This is an oil painting, which is very large. It's almost 2 meter 50 by 1 meter 50, and it shows a little dewdrop. And this dewdrop also has its story in a real life situation, and which is of a morning dew that I used to focus on as a 7-year-old, and that's in the next slide. Yeah. Maybe Esther, if you would like to ask me something before I say the story of these illustrations.
Yeah, I was thinking of what you said specifically with your first drawing and then how it transitioned. And we are seeing here three very different drawings and styles of art. And so I would like to ask you, how did your life or how that transition affect and shape your art? And if, uh, and yeah, how can we find that transformation in times where things are challenging?
Yes, right. I was indeed in exploration phase before my floral style, what you see today, came into place. It was after many years of painting, researching, seeing how to communicate, how to feel, how to integrate, how to process the pains and get wisdom out of that pain. So that's why you are seeing the different styles. uh, these drawings looking for life safety in moments of fear. You see the hands going up. That was me as a 7-year-old at schools in Iran. We were obliged to shout "Death to America" during school assembly every morning. And I was very scared of that because the concept of death, I had to understand it as a 7-year-old child. And then I had to understand that death wish to a whole other population. So as a as an inquisitive child, that was a very big question in my mind, and it was very heavy. So I was lucky enough to stand next to the wall where from the cracks of the wall little plants used to get out, and they would have a little dewdrop in the mornings. So that's the second image you see at the bottom. And I used to imagine that I'm living inside this little dewdrop. So that's the last image, which then I turned into a large painting as an adult later, just a few years ago. To me, that dewdrop was something physical and real, and nobody was seeing it. Nobody was paying attention that the dewdrop is the sign of life. A new day has just started. It's the miracle of life. Um, the whole atmosphere was dominated by this death to America. And to me, that was also another question, that if we are asking God to kill people of America, and if people of America are asking God to kill us, the people in Iran, who is he going to kill at the end of the day? That was another logical question for a 7-year-old child. So it was a very heavy thing. And these were also the seeds of the whole concept of Florescencism that came out to, in the middle of terror, in the middle of chaos, things which we cannot understand. Is there a spot of safety where I can ground myself so I can think clearly, feel clearly, and see what to do with this chaos, what to do with this terror? Yeah, so this is how it developed. If we go to the next slide. This is so much later in 2019. I started to hold many exhibitions after we left Iran. As a 16-year-old, I joined Amnesty International uh, because I got to know about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and that really excited me because that declaration showed that all humans are the same in the face of the law, and they are meant to be treated equally. So that showed me that even if countries have different cultures, but we are all human, so there are some basic things which apply to all of us. And then by 19 I was already exhibiting. I had posters for Amnesty International which were published, and they were precisely against the abuse of women, since we were talking about women earlier on. They against the when preventing women from education, or in general from freedom of expression. And later, when I was exhibiting for on the themes of peace and friendship between people, many started to ridicule me in the sense that, oh, you are a little dreamy girl talking about peace and flowers, you're too idealistic and you don't know anything about the reality of the world. So that is what pushed me to go and study international relations and political science. I said, okay, let's see what is it about the world that I should know before talking about friendship between people. And quite frankly, after studying international relations, political science, seeing how conflicts get created, what brings wars about, it didn't change anything regarding that space of warmth which I had accessed as a 3-year-old, as a 7-year-old, and until today. So I just realized it's a question of connecting to ourselves, connecting to our heart and the hearts of other people, and start hearing them and seeing them and trying to understand ourselves, trying to understand others. So um, this also started a link between me and the academia. I started to give talks at universities together with my painting exhibitions. What you are seeing is stamp which was published by one of my paintings. This is the sunflower because in flower essence remedies, the sunflower helps one's acceptance of one's authenticity, one's authentic self. Who am I? What is my character? What are my capacities? And I think every human being can give the best to the world when he or she is his real self instead of trying to be somebody else. We all have a unique combination of capacities, and that uniqueness is what makes our being a special for the world and a big gift to the world. So this is how the stamp came, and there is another stamp in the next slide. This is the previous one was in Liechtenstein. This one was in China. It shows the flowers, the most typical flowers along the countries of the Silk Road. And this was to bring us down to the earth, that even if our cultural mentalities might have differences, we're still on the same earth. So we're still in the bigger home. We're still sharing the same home. And even though there might be differences on our surface identities, the deep identity that we have as humans is not so far away. It's just that we need to access it, again, to be able to understand and connect to each other. This is what my humble research showed me and my experience in the world, at least. So if you like, we can go to the next slide. I think there are maybe some questions. I don't, shall we take the questions now or at the end?
Let's take the questions at the end. Yeah.
At the end. Okay. So the next slide shows a book, political science books, which put my paintings on the cover. And this was also a very important step because many people tend at the beginning were in a way trivializing the paintings for being very gentle, for having flowers, and flowers are associated immediately with things being very girly, and what is this? This is not serious. And that was also my fight for being respected. If I am a gentle type of person, not to be stepped upon. Do I have to be a bully to get accepted, to be taken seriously? So if you can't look at gentle things as serious, then you're not civilized enough yet. So this was also the rebellious part in me. And so the more they were in a way ridiculing my flowers, the more I insisted and painted thousands of them on every flower. And what is interesting is that social scientists started to notice that, wow, this is important for society. They because they're into research of where conflicts come about in society. So this was the first one. There are two more books. If you like, we can go to the next ones. Yes, this was a book which is particularly about Iran and where it stands in the world today, and it tracks also a little bit the civilization in previous years and centuries. This was also very important to me. What was interesting was when this book was published, the professor put it on his Twitter. Many scholars of Middle Eastern studies commented, wow, we finally see a book on the Middle East which doesn't have a miserable looking cover full of violence. This is colorful and nice. And this was for me another important point via the art, because it provides almost like a blueprint proposal for what our society can be like, can feel like, can look like. And if we remain in a loop of misery, we can't get out of it. So that's why I insisted that my art brings the voice of that sun singing in the middle of bombardment rather than only the trauma, because the trauma, we have to process it, but to process it we need to access the strength first. You cannot process a trauma if you remain inside the situation when you're constantly abused, where you're constantly violated. You need some space. If physically that space, that safe space is not possible, then internally we need to find it. And that is how I managed to have my paintings give me that access. They provided that possibility to myself to process the traumas that I went through. I had family members killed in the war. I had family members executed by the newly formed regimes. I had a cousin, a 19-year-old cousin, who was sent to the war as a young soldier. They brought back his body without a head. That is a very traumatic experience for a 9-year-old girl that I was at that time. So these beautiful paintings are not a choice of naivete. I'm not naive about the cruelties in the world. I'm just saying, please don't forget there is another space available to us humans. Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you access it? Because this is where you will get the strength to transform the cruel challenges, see how they can be processed, metabolized, made into something better so we can grow as humans. Yeah, I think there is one more. Yeah, and this was another book which brought much joy to my heart. This is specifically a book, a scholarly book, again by Cambridge University Press, which studies how gendered citizenship in Iran affects the lives of men and women. So how the laws which are based on gender differences are creating different life qualities for women. That painting is a waterfall made of fuchsia flower. If you go to the next slide, we can see it more fully. The fuchsia flower in Flower Essence Remedies helps to unblock obstacles which stop the flow in our life. So that's why I also call the painting waterfall of the soul. So if the soul can flow in life fully. And the author of this book picked this painting without knowing what the meaning of the flower was, but it was perfect, because I wish for the life of women in Iran to be flowing without having obstacles that stop them. So this was another for me a very fulfilling achievement for my heart as a painter who wanted to make available the strength that we have in us in life to access, and also the wisdom of nature, because we are on the earth with all these other beings around us. It's not only humans who exist on the earth. There are animals, there are birds, there are plants, and we depend on them. We depend on them for breathing, for eating, for everything. So yeah, I don't know if Esther wanted to ask me something. Was it about this one you wanted to ask something?
I think with the theme of, you have talked about how, flowers and the theme of nature is very recurrent. I've noticed in your painting. So I wanted to ask more about that feeling of refuge that usually people look for in your paintings and in art in general and in nature. So have you noticed that people often um, find peace in your art? And is that the intention that you were meaning behind the creation of these beautiful art pieces?
Yes, yes, it is. It is one of the frequent comments that I get from people who see the paintings, that they do feel this sense of safety, calm, joy, also a space for new possibilities. And it is also something that I consciously like to transmit via the paintings. It's like a singer. A singer can transmit a certain emotion via his voice. We painters do it via our brush. Somehow it gets transmitted. I don't know, scientists can maybe explain how that happens. And also the integration with nature, because you see, nature is the quiet, non-noisy compared to us humans. And I think if we learn how to listen to that quiet nature, the wisdom, what it is saying, what it is offering, the signals around us, again, I think we can live much better quality lives, even if disagreements in our opinions, in our knowledge, in our conclusions come. If we go back to a spot of wisdom, we can find the solutions much easier from that mindset, rather than from a mindset of bitterness and anger and why did you do this and why did you do that. So that is another reason why I bring nature in a lot in my work, because that's where the massive reservoir of intelligence exists. Our bodies are of nature. Our nervous systems evolved throughout surviving in nature. So there is a lot of ancient wisdom there in a way, that we can access. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Great. So I think there is, yeah, and then here this is a part of a new series that I'm creating, with which I hope to send prints to conflict zones or post-conflict zones, in order to provide that little space where people can access something different in themselves, in their lives. And this one is called Raindrops of Beauty. The flowers which are in the raindrops, there are flowers which in fluorescence remedies help to evoke genuine connections with other people, with the world around us. And there is one more image of this from the same collection. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, the previous one, the blue one. Yes, this is also for the same collection for an intervention in conflict or post-conflict zones, with the lily of the valley sending flowers for sending waters for clearing what we need to clear in ourselves, whether it's a certain pain or a certain bitterness or anger. And those are all signals to us. We need to listen to what the pain is trying to tell us, what the anger is trying to tell us, and once we listen to it, then it calms down and we can allow it to clear. And this is all what the paintings are about. The lily of the valley. This is lily of the valley. It in fluorescence remedies, it brings out the sweetness in us, the sweetness in life. So I'm hoping once we can let the bitterness to process, we can also experience the sweetness. And this is another thing which you asked me about the different styles throughout my research. Also, because of my own trauma recoveries, I learned that it's very difficult for us to understand something if our body nervous system has lost touch with it. So at some point, even being able to feel safe, if you've been in an unsafe place for a long time, it's very, very difficult. Feeling safety literally becomes an alien feeling. But how do you feel safe? So this is why I'm evoking, provoking, or inviting in my paintings the feeling of safety. So at least if we can feel it in ourselves, in our body, then we can also create it in the world around us, in the physical world around us. Yeah. And the last one is the one that Phoebe also has, and I'm so glad that she likes it. This was a painting which was inspired in 2023 when there was a whole uprising in Iran with women who want to ask to have the legal choice of wearing the veil or not wearing the veil. And it's for women's ascension. So these are all rising brides that it calls for the tender love of the collective masculine, so both genders can appreciate each other and hold the space for each other and hold each other in tender respect, tender love. This was the inspiration or motivation or invitation of this painting. And that's all basically. So also the word, yeah, we can go to the last slide there. Florescencism. Many people sometimes find it a bit difficult to pronounce. So it's floor essence is fluorescence in English refers to flowering, basically flourishing when a plant suddenly grows, and they also use it metaphorically, fluorescence of a civilization, fluorescence of a person. So it literally refers to the mindset of flourishing. And therefore, fluorescencism is exploring conditions that enable human flourishing through our struggles, through our challenges. How can we navigate challenges in a way that bring us to our flowering rather than to our distraction? And this is why I have been in dialogue with so many fields: social science, neuroscience. The field of neuroaesthetics is growing a lot these days, which goes into well-being. They study the effect of art on human brain, also the effect of beautiful sceneries, nature on human brain, education. So that's it. And due to this, I came across this wonderful platform, which has formed very recently. We can go to the next slide. This is called the Age of Culture project. They are a very interesting platform, multidisciplinary, trying to give culture a prominent place in our human civilization, in our policies, in our mindsets. And so I have started my collaboration with them because of the concept of flourishing. And this is with Miko's World, where they are introducing stories for youngsters. And you can go to the next slide. Yeah, well, this is maybe many words to explain, but basically how to transform fluorescencism as one of the paradigms that we have available, which is a paradigm of flourishing. And this goes into different fields, and it becomes one of our usable languages. Yes, this is it basically. So I'm open to comments, questions, and I'm very thankful that you have given me this opportunity to share about my journey with you all. Thank you.